The CIO and the secret sauce. Hi, I'm Andrew Bryant, and I want to take you back to October 12th, 2019. Seems like a long time ago. On that day, Kenyan athlete Eliud Kipchoge ran the first sub 2-hour marathon. The first human being to run 26 miles in under 2 hours. Or did he? Because Eliud Kipchoge had a secret sauce, and that secret sauce was the collaboration between human and technology. You see, Eliud Kipchoge had technology on his side, whether it was the carbon fiber inside of his Nike shoes, which gave him extra lift, whether it was the specially designed course that he ran on alone without other runners except his pacers, who were themselves guided by disco lights on the floor by a car that kept the exact rate and speed required to achieve the goal. And Eliud's unfettered access to his favorite carbohydrate drink that was delivered to him by a cyclist that rode alongside. This is a great example of technology and human performance coming together to break records. You see, as CIOs, you understand technology and you're human. And so it's an element of fusing the two. And that's the secret sauce when humans and technology come together as a collaboration. You see, technology makes sense. Human beings, not so much. Human beings, of course, are soft and squidgy. You have to handle them with care. They are fragile and you need to keep them dry because they're 100% organic. And the secret sauce is for you to get the best out of your people to build the technology in a way that serves people, the ultimate collaboration. You see, as an executive coach of leadership teams, I find that I get insights into those collaborations between the CIO or CTO and the other C-level executives, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, the CPO, etc., etc. And what's interesting is that each of them has a different frame, a different software application in what they want to achieve. And so whether I'm coaching one-to-one or embedded in an executive leadership team, one of the things I do is run a dark side psychometric. Now, an ordinary personality test gives us the way somebody behaves, but a dark side test lets us get inside and see how we could be derailed. And as I'm talking, you're beginning to read the description behind me. Hostility and aggression towards others, being manipulative and deceitful in their interaction with others, self-centeredness, selfishness, and a high regard for their own opinions, disregard for other people's opinions and feelings, desire to achieve their goals at any expense. Now, the good news is I'm not describing the typical CIO or CTO. I'm describing a typical limits or derailer profile of a CEO. Interestingly, these traits, dark side traits, often drive to leadership. But what does a typical CIO look like? Well, they are avoiding others and maintaining interpersonal distance. They have a disinterest in other people or building relationship, lacking affection, feeling or appearing dejected and glum. Now, I'm not saying this applies to you specifically or all CIOs, but it's a profile that is typical in this role. And here's something that you need to understand. You can't lead others unless you first lead yourself. You need the self-awareness around your default programming to develop the agility and the flexibility to achieve your objectives. You need something that I have been talking about on stages around the world for over 20 years, and that is self-leadership. Now, I've written 2 books on the topic, one in 2012 with Dr. Anna Kazan, and an updated handbook in 2016, which became an Amazon bestseller. Now, to cut to the chase, the definition of self-leadership is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and action towards your objective. It's a practice, just like taking a shower is a practice. You need to take at least one shower a day or you will stink. If you don't practice your self-leadership on a daily basis, you will go off course. Now, the real secret sauce is to practice self-leadership and encourage self-leadership in your teams so that they can take ownership and responsibility and therefore be more effective. Because as the CIO, you have to be very cautious that you're not putting out fires. Now, typically, as you move up through an organization, you get promoted for your ability for running into burning buildings and metaphorically putting out fires. And in fact, if you're really truthful with yourself, I probably think you in the last 7 to 10 days have put out a number of fires. But think about it. Your job is no longer to run into the burning building putting out the fires. Your job is not even the squad leader to organize who goes in and puts out the fires. As the CIO, your secret sauce is to step back and be the fire chief, talking to the mayor about where the fire stations should be built in the future, what kind of resources are needed for the latest firefighting equipment, and possibly even robotic solutions so that human life is not put in danger. You see, you have to overcome your legacy code to do it yourself. To be reserved, to dive into the code, you need to be making sure that you are bringing up the next level of human beings to do those things. You are going to need to get out of your shell and encourage others to get out of their shell so that they're interacting and collaborating with other parts of the business and your clients. Now, we know what the skills are that are required for the tech professional moving forward. This particular survey was done by Deloitte in 2018, where CIOs were asked what they saw the upcoming skills were. And of course, topping the list, creativity, cognitive flexibility, and emotional intelligence. Now, that was a 3-year prediction. We're just about to go into 2021 when all of these things will be clearly required. In fact, this year, 2020, has advanced and accelerated digital transformation more than we could ever imagine. In fact, I'm coming to you virtually because of this requirement. And the advantage, of course, is we can all work remotely or distributed. And so having these collaboration skills are important. In fact, I predict that the talent of the future will be valued not only for their technical skills, but for their critical thinking, communication, collaboration, specifically for their self-leadership. When I've coached or developed self-leadership within individuals and teams, these are the sort of feedback that I get. I'm taking my fate, actions, and results into my own hands. I lead the room with 100% confidence. I speak up, command respect and attention from clients and senior executives. I influence decision makers to invest in my ideas and initiatives. I have silenced self-doubt and have nerves of steel around people who previously intimidated me. You see, self-leadership truly is the secret sauce to getting your objectives. Underpinning that self-leadership is confidence. Now, confidence is not walking into a room thinking that you are better than anybody else. Confidence is walking into a room knowing that you are your best possible self and that you don't have to compare with anybody else. We so need confidence. I remember when I first had an iPad all those years ago. Early adopter, bought my iPad, played with it, loved the swipey icons, put it on the sofa beside me to watch some TV, and then I nudged it with my elbow. It fell on the floor. I picked it up, and then I realized that it had landed just on the thin edge where the volume rocker was, and now there was the bell icon in the middle of my brand new iPad. I took it into a tech store to get it fixed. There wasn't a dedicated Apple store where I was, but the guy looked at it in this approved Apple store and he did this. And I said, what does that mean? He said, you bent the case. I said, yes, I can see that. I said, can you fix it? And he said, and I said, what does mean? He said, well, I'm going to have to take out the screen. I said, well, what's the problem there? He said, and I said, yes. He said, well, I could break the screen. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, then you would have to buy a new screen. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, that means it's going to cost almost as much as a new iPad. Now, as a coach, I'm trained to ask questions. So I asked this guy, I said, if this was your iPad, what would you do? And he said, oh, well, there's this booth by the underground train station where they fix iPhones all the time. I'd probably take it there. And I said, thank you very much. I left the store. I went to the little booth where somebody who was also young, geeky with the hair gel, looked exactly like the guy in the store. But as I handed him my iPad, he said, come back in 20 minutes. I said, what do you mean, 20 minutes? He said, oh, it'll take me 20 minutes. I've got another phone to fix first. I said, hang on a moment. Don't you have to take the screen out? He said, yes. I said, aren't you worried about cracking it? He said, no, I know what I'm doing. And I said, I'll see you in 20 minutes. See, confidence is not hubris or arrogance. It is that sense of knowing because you've done it in the past, you're doing it in the present. The real challenge is, what are we going to do in the future? Now, since I only have a limited time with you today, I've given you a training on confidence for free if you go to selfleadership.com/tech. And I recommend you do that because once you've got confidence, the next secret sauce is executive presence, the ability to project gravitas, confidence, and poise under pressure. So go to selfleadership.com/tech and I've got a training for you absolutely free, and that'll help you and the people that you lead. You see, before you can lead others, you must lead yourself. Before you become an industry leader, you must become a self-leader. That is the secret sauce. So I thank you for listening to me, and I specifically thank you for the following. As AI, edge technologies, robotics, machine learning, all of the things that you understand are changing the way we work and live and communicate. There is something that is really, really important. And I think that we need, as anybody who understands technology, to accelerate. And that is what it means to be human. And I think this is incredibly important. There's huge conversations around, well, will technology remove work? No, it won't. We know historically that every time we've had a technological disruption, actually we've increased employment. The point is we haven't increased the same type of employment. People have had to learn, grow, and develop. And as somebody who is at the top of your organization in terms of understanding what's coming down the pipeline, education, developing people, and developing that mindset that you as a human being can bring your humanity, the things that technology doesn't do very well. And the reason is that technology wants us to release ourselves to be more human, to use our brains, to use our identities, to use our unique ability with language and art and beauty. All of those things that technology can advance about human beings. I thank you for being at the forefront of what you do because you can take humanity to the next level. So apply your secret sauce, be a self-leader, practice intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and actions towards your objectives. Pay it forwards, bring humanity to technology, and I look forward to supporting you in any way I can. My name is Andrew Bryant.